Last week, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis put out an ad that was excessively homophobic and also cringe. And of course, this week, he is now out defending it. In fact, I'm going to show you some of it, and then we'll discuss.
I cannot think of anything more horrifying.
It really has shut down drag.
Just produced some of the harshest, most draconian laws that literally threaten trans existence.
Congratulations, Ron DeSantis. Mission accomplished. You win.
Again, I wasn't going to show you the entire thing, but it's basically the entire video of, oh, left is melting down because I'm targeting the transes and the gays. Yeah, so he's celebrating massive amounts of bigotry. Now, also notice how friend of the show, Mike Figueredo, is on there. Farron Cousins was also, featured in another part of this video. I've got responses from them, by the way. They had something to say about it. But first, I'm going to show you a video of Ron DeSantis talking about how this is totally fair game. Before I get to that, let me just note that he's basically attacking Trump for being too friendly to the LGBTQ community, which is just wrong. Donald Trump was no friend to the LGBTQ community. I mean, they tried to banning transgender people from the military and all this stuff. So now, anyway, at the same time, though, Ron DeSantis has made his entire campaign about going after gay and trans people and other marginalized communities because he has no other actual policy positions other than helping his donors. Because at the end of the day, that's always what it's about. I got to help my donors. I got to make rich people richer. And so we're going to engage in the culture wars. I'm going to get into power. We're going to sit here and have you all fight while we pick your pocket. That's what it is. That's what it is. So now, of course, when it comes down to it, this is a political loser. It just is. We saw this during the midterm elections where election deniers and transphobes, they lost. They lost big time in these elections. And I'm going to tell you why. Turns out the American people are either against a majority of these anti-trans bills or it doesn't matter as much to them. Even if they're against, for example, there's a poll showing that there's a majority of Americans that are like, I don't know about trans women competing in sports. But that's not their top priority. And by the way, it shouldn't be. And by the way, there's no reason, no actual good faith argument that anyone could ever make to support banning transgender girls from sports. That's just ridiculous. Especially high school sports. No, there's no evidence to support any of these bans. It's ridiculous, but it's culture war stuff. And again, even the Americans who, have fallen for this, the right-wing BS when it comes to, trans girls in sports. That's not something that they're going to go out and vote for. Like, you know what? Screw healthcare. Screw the economy. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to vote against them transes. That's not what people are out there doing. Not the reality. And I have data to back this up, by the way. According to data from polling data from Data for Progress, when asked about the more than 400 pieces of legislation working their way through state houses aimed at limiting the rights of transgender and gay people in America, 64% of respondents, including 55% of Republicans, said, quote, "This is too much legislation. Politicians are playing political theater and using these bills as a wedge issue." 55% of Republicans are like, too much anti-trans, anti-gay stuff. What are you doing? This is not an issue. This is not a big issue. This is not something that I really care about. 25% agreed with the statement. This is the right amount of legislation. Politicians are dealing with a real danger that needs to be addressed. So understand that, and again, the majority of that is Republicans, of course. This is a fringe view. That's what this is. It's a fringe view. Ron DeSantis is basically representing a tiny little fringe with this war against the wokes. You got to go after the wokes, you see. Yes, so much. The wokers. The wokers. The wokers.
Woke.
You got to go after the woke. No, they don't care. The voters don't care. In fact, look, when asked in a different poll from PBS News, this is back in March, a couple of months ago, about the biggest issue that faces the country. 31% of Americans said the economy. Now, preserving democracy was the second highest ranking priority, and we're going to go down the list. And by the way, some of the stuff that they mentioned, I actually don't agree with. Fewer than 10% of Americans consider the following issues to be top concerns for the country at this time. Healthcare, 9%. Oh, no, for me, healthcare would be way up there. Healthcare is too expensive. Insurance is basically robbery. Healthcare is deeply, deeply important. And so I disagree with some of the priorities in this poll. Immigration, 8%. Climate change, 8%. No, climate change needs to be way up there as well. It's existential. Crime, 7%. And yet the right wing consistently focuses on crime. There's crime everywhere. They're robbing the cities. They're burning Arby's. Target's on fire. 7%. Nobody cares. Gun policy, 6%. Abortion, 5%. And education, 4%. So understand the focus on woke and the trans ideology, whatever that is. It's a loser. It's a losing issue in elections. It does not get people out to vote. And that's why Ron DeSantis is flailing at the polls. According to an NBC News survey, DeSantis is down to 22% in the Republican primary versus Donald Trump's 51%. Again, these are just absolute non-issues. So he's not doing well. Among many other issues, by the way, putting Ron sticking his fingers where he doesn't belong, where they don't belong, I should say. Yes, that's not exactly
sexual anarchy,
but it could be taken that way. Meatball Ron, pudding Ron, whatever you want to call him. I just noticed that there's a lot of food-based attacks on Ron DeSantis. Very interesting. Maybe I'm just noticing it because I haven't had lunch. Don't know. But look, among the many problems Ron DeSantis has, mainly has to do with the fact that he's super dull. He has the personality of a piece of driftwood. He's running a shitty campaign. He's super, super unlikable. And has been laser focused on a very, very losing issue. Unpopular issue. Nobody cares about this. This is not what brings people out. And it just makes it even more strange that he doubles, triples down. He said, there was an interview that he did recently, I don't remember where he basically, not an interview, sorry, it was a campaign speech where he said like woke like 11 times in 30 seconds. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But it's something that he's completely doubled down on. And now he's actually trying to use that as an attack against Donald Trump. I'm not kidding. This is what he said on Tommy Lauren's Outkick show on YouTube.
I mean, I think, identifying Donald Trump as really being a pioneer in injecting gender ideology into the mainstream where he was having men compete against women in his beauty pageants. I think that's totally fair game because he's now campaigning saying the opposite, that he doesn't think that you should have men competing in women's things like athletics. And so we've been very clear on it that we believe in protecting the rights of our girls and the rights of women athletes to be able to participate with fairness and with integrity.
Fairness and integrity, just making sure to protect the girls from those big scary trans women, you know what I'm saying, that oftentimes lose when it comes to competing against cisgendered women. And funny, you talk about protecting girls in for example, school sports. Well, it's weird because your rhetoric has inspired all these so-called transvestigators to go out there and harass 9-year-old girls, who I guess apparently don't look girlish enough. They're 9. Okay, she's 9, and yet, oh no, I think you're a trans because you're a little bit too good at sports. How deeply? First, okay, trans misogyny, it's not a surprise that the vast majority of transphobes are also misogynistic. Because how deeply infantilizing is that rhetoric? Oh, we got to protect the women and girls, because they're so weak and pathetic that they could never win against a trans woman. Gotta protect them, you see. No. Again, oftentimes, transgender women get beaten by cisgender women in sports. And again, it's high school sports. And really, the main point of high school sports is to foster teamwork and for the kids to have fun and to bond. But apparently they want to, and they really betray themselves, because really it's about othering and erasing transgender people. That's what it is. And so, now that's it. One more fun thing from that, talking about fairness, right? So he points out, oh, you see, we got to restore fairness and all. And by the way, Donald Trump, do you know that he allowed transgender women to compete against women in the Miss Universe pageant, those beauty pageants? Wait, so does Ron DeSantis believe that transgender women have an unfair advantage in the beauty pageants? That's interesting. It's kind of a strange thing to say if you're Ron DeSantis and you believe that trans women don't actually exist and are just men in dresses. Kind of a strange thing, right? And so here's what would be funny for all of this if it weren't so, again, horribly harmful to the LGBTQ plus community. It is so obvious that a lot of these transphobes are so incredibly attracted to trans women. That's not the funny part. There's nothing wrong with being attracted to trans women. Very, very many beautiful trans women out there. But what's funny about this is that it's so obvious that it bothers them. It makes them so uncomfortable. I don't understand why. I don't understand why that would make them uncomfortable. Trans women are women. Trans women are valid and beautiful. What's wrong? What's wrong with that? What's wrong? You attracted to a trans woman? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But they do. And that's why trans women live in their heads rent free. I think that they desire what they believe that they can have. It's their personal hangups, that they have. And obviously the really, really horrible thing about all of this is that these people's insecurities are putting trans women's lives in danger, in jeopardy, along with the rest of the LGBTQ community. Your hangups are not someone else's problem, and it shouldn't be something that stops other people from living their lives the way that they want to do, And so one more thing about Ron DeSantis and the fact that he is flailing. Again, I talked about the recent interview that he had with Tommy Lauren, and I showed you a little bit of that. Do you know how many views that got? Just an aside, 3,700. Over 19 hours. Now, wait a minute. You might think, oh, come on, dude, you're putting up views? What are you doing? The channel, the Outkick channel on YouTube has 1.2 million subscribers. She's getting my numbers. I have nowhere near 1.2 million subscribers. And she gets it. Remember when Tommy Lauren was like, oh, this huge name on the right? And she's interviewing the second highest polling Republican candidate. And she's getting 3,700 views in over a day. Almost a day. What? I expected better, honestly. Very surprised. A little sad. All right, so now back to let's get to the backlash, I should say. All right, so first, log cabin Republicans criticize the ad as extremely homophobic. and said that DeSantis and his naive policy positions are dangerous and politically stupid. Okay, that's log cabin Republicans. I'm still surprised that log cabin Republicans haven't quite figured it out yet. That, the rest of the Republican Party hates them. Yeah, I know. It just can't seem to figure it out. Something to do with tax cuts. It's a hell of a drug, right? Trump campaign spokesperson Steve Chung weighed in on DeSantis' comments, telling ABC News, quote, "A desperate DeSantis campaign with a flaming candidate in its last throes of relevancy." Oh, that's painful. And former acting director of national intelligence Richard Grenell, who served under Trump as the first openly gay U.S. cabinet member in history, called the ad, quote, "undeniably homophobic." So now, Humanist Report, who again was in this video, he put out his own video. I suggest you check that out, but I will point out what he said on Twitter about it. Quote, "Using one of my videos describing his Nazi-esque genocidal policies as a flex is certainly interesting, but okay." And again, I would definitely check out his video where he breaks down his appearance in that ad. And then I mentioned Farron Cousins, also in the video, friend of the show, and he asked this question. "How far back did you have to go to find that clip from me? The last few months I've been talking about how horrible he is at campaigning and laughing about his horrible performance. I'd be more than happy to send you those for your next ad if you'd like." Boss. Great response. So now, again, getting back to the overall point here, Ron DeSantis is not doing well, and it's because he has latched on and made his campaign all about one single issue, a very losing issue, and that is woke.
The wokers.
So, hey, once again, this kind of shows you, go anti-woke, you're going to go broke. Or at least your campaign will. Look, if Ron DeSantis, or any Republican, or any Democrat, by the way, would run an economically populist campaign, like what Trump had attempted to do in 2016, by the way, then they would get somewhere. Oh, they would. But when it comes to Ron DeSantis, that's never the point. And by the way, Republicans at large, not the point. Their point, again, is to get as much money they can directed to the coffers of their donors. And that's really all it is.